Thanks very much, Kerry. Yes, I'd like to start by acknowledging that the traditional custodians of the land in which we live, learn and work and meet today, the Gumbaynggirr people, and pay respects to elders of yesterday, today and tomorrow, and really share how much I value their continued contributions to the care of this country, since time immemorial. And we're all beneficiaries of that stewardship every day that we live here. And I'd like to also extend respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, particularly any that are with us here today. Kerry, thanks very much for the invite here today. I'd like to say firstly thank you to all of you good people for coming out on a Sunday, and a rather warm and blustery Sunday where it feels a bit more like bushfire season all of a sudden rather than La Nina that we have been experiencing. But it's great to see you here, to take an interest in what is a very important discussion that we're going to have today. I'd like to also acknowledge my fellow speakers here today. We have Captain Greg Topple from New South Wales Fire and Rescue, the Urunga unit. We have Deputy Captain Craig Oates from the Urunga Brigade of the RFS, and Ian Hardcastle, Inspector Ian Hardcastle from the SES Northern Zone, which includes the Coffs Coast area. So I'd like to say to each and every one of you, thank you very much for your commitment to our community through your leadership and through your dedication to your organisations, and also thank all of your members for what they do in terms of looking after our community in our most vulnerable times. And my wife and I have been very welcome recipients of your assistance in recent months, and I know many of you probably here today have also benefited from the work that these organisations do in our community. So I'd like to publicly thank each and every one of you for the work you do. Look, today we're going to talk about a lot of things in terms of disaster preparation, and over the last few years there's been a lot of discussion about resilience in our community and resilience individually, and we all are very aware of the effects of the concatenation of disaster we've all experienced over the last few years, and unfortunately, as is evident in central New South Wales at the moment, it's continuing. So resilience is very important, and I just would like to speak firstly about your own individual resilience, because it's become more apparent and more evident over the last few years just how important looking after yourself is, your own well-being, and an important part of that, something that's become really evident to me during the course of this year, is the importance of connectivity with others. Like through this year, I've noticed there's sort of a rhythm to the calendar where we celebrate certain special weeks, be it Seniors Week and Volunteers Week, NAIDOC Week, Harmony Week, and so on. And in the course of those celebrations, I've really noticed how important it is for people to have that human connection. And most people that are in a volunteer sort of capacity have said to me, whatever I give, I get back, tenfold. And they really mean that. And I think, my experience is that human connection really does help your own well-being. And some of you will know I've got a background in health, and actually the pandemic, for all its challenges, actually provided sort of an interesting opportunity for some research to be done around the effects of social isolation versus human connectivity. And the results of those studies that were done, in multinodal centres across Europe and the United States, has proven conclusively that not only does social isolation have a negative impact on your mental well-being, but actually on your physical well-being. There was proof that your body's ability to fight infection, your own immunity is reduced due to social isolation, which is kind of ironic, I guess, because the one thing we needed to do to protect ourselves from that novel virus was social isolation, but it actually had a negative impact as well. Conversely, there's really strong evidence to show that when people are connected socially, they are more able, physically and mentally, to feel well. So I think that's really interesting. In terms of community resilience, it is much more, however, than just a sum of our individual resilience. All the evidence shows that resilient communities are those communities that have strong and effective networks in place prior to these times of disaster. Community resilience is really defined as a community or the society's ability to prepare for, respond to, and recover from disaster. And as I say, the evidence is really strong that if a community is agile and is able to respond in a timely manner, is able to seek the external assistance that it needs in a timely manner, then it recovers much quicker. And the only way that those communities are able to do that is if they have a cohesiveness and a series of community networks already in place prior to these disasters happening. So that's what today is really about, to flesh that out. Kerry will speak, in much more detail about that than I would. But I congratulate you all for being here, because this is the type of thing that actually builds those networks, creates those fibres that connect us all together, so that when we need to, we can come together and be agile and respond as we need in those times of disaster. I often say, I feel like our forefathers sort of inherently knew that, and volunteering was very much a part of the way of life in Australia. But, in Australia and across the Western world, we've all become busy in our own lives, and sometimes, unfortunately, people feel that they don't have the time to volunteer. It is actually a problem, the drop or the lowering of volunteerism in our country and across the world is an issue we need to think about. But hopefully, by raising awareness in this sort of more formal setting, we can address that and we can come together. So I hope you really enjoy the presentations today. I know I'm very much looking forward to the discussion and look forward to some outcomes at the end of it. Thanks very much.